Guys, welcome back and welcome in. This is a tutorial for anyone who feels like they want to try HOI4, Hearts of Iron. Hearts of Iron is 7 years old, but they're still releasing DLC to this day. I recommend anyone who wants to play to subscribe to their DLC, get all of their DLC content for $5 a month. You do know that Arms Against Tyranny, which is the Scandinavian countries, are getting redone in October. So, or sometime in the fall, as far as I know. So, this is meant as a basic tutorial on how to play the game. In terms of the very, very basics, it doesn't talk really much about strategy or how you are supposed to, or whatever country. This is just a way of working your way around the game. This is your first Paradox game, then the UI is a pretty hefty, provides a pretty hefty learning curve. For the sake of this tutorial, we're going to start off with Germany, because it's the easiest to kind of start a war in. We'd have it within a couple months. Here is the countries that are a part of, that have their own focus trees. They've expanded over the years with different DLC. The base ones were these, as you see here, and I believe Poland as well. And then over time, different countries got added, have their own focus. Down here at the bottom, you have the difficulty and type of mode that your game is going to be. Iron Man mode is pretty much prevents cheats and only gives you one save, and it saves often. If it saves at the first of each one. And then you have historical AI focuses. This means that this is gonna go, the countries around you that you aren't playing are gonna go down their natural path, be historically accurate. But for the sake of this game, we are going to turn Iron Man mode off. Okay, before we get started on anything else, the first thing we're going to look at is our country. So we have our national focus, which brings up our national focus tree. This allows us to kind of get a gist of where we want our country. For example, we could go down the historical route of the Rhineland, or we could go towards the non-historical route, opposing the funny mustache man. For the sake of this game, we're going to be going down this route. So we have the national spirit, like I mentioned before. This is buffs and debuffs to your country. But this right here is the faction that you're in. Your ideology, the state of the ideologies in your country, because you could go either way. Occupied territories, which is pretty much other areas that you own. And other areas that you own also have, in order to maintain compliance of the other areas that you own, you have the option to click different types of police forces. For the sake of this tutorial, we are not going to delve into that or different types of compliances. We are just going to focus on the. So we have our conscription laws, our trade laws, and mobilization laws. So conscription helps us get manpower. Trade laws could help or hinder our effective resource gain, how much we use for our own market or send out to other markets, and could also affect the amount that we produce as. Mobilization similarly has buffs and debuffs. Usually we start off in civilian economy, or for the sake of Germany, we're starting off in partial mobilization, which gives us more fuel gain than if we were in economy or civilian economy. These right here are your political advisors, people that could add different buffs and debuffs. We will get to this when we have enough to hire someone. So we have theorists, which help with our doctrine, our military doctrine. Not to yet. Different types of designers, which add buffs and debuffs to the equipment that you make, and your military staff, which is ultimately going to help you build military experience. So now that we understand the base of our country, start here at the upper left. Next to our flag, we see this little Senate symbol. This here is political power. Political power, you can make multiple decisions, change the trade and economy laws, appoint staff and cabinet members, even award medals to army divisions. We might get to that later, or I might have it in a different video. If I get to it in this video, I will try. And we can also improve relations with other nations, etc. It has multiple uses. Right next to it, we see a scale, which is stability. And as you can see, the effects of stability, different power gain, consumer good factories, output, these type of buffs or debuffs, and it might also result in a civil war in certain instances if the stability gets too low. This right here is the war effort. War effort affects how high mobilization or conscription is allowed by the masses without repercussions. It also allows for buffs or debuffs, mobilization speed, and it also helps with our manpower gain. The more war support you have, the more people are willing to give you the command power, which I will explain in a bit. This right here is our manpower, or amount of military forces, our military strength, if you will. Military strength is based off of conscription laws. So if you feel like this is getting too low, you change conscription laws. But like I said before, your ability to change conscription laws is based off of two: political power and a war. If you don't have enough war support, you could actually get a decision to ease up on conscription because people will riot. Well, they would strike, and you'll have debuffs. So right next to that is our amount of factories in use. This is our economical strength or industrial strength. Our ability to produce, which helps with trade as well. Our fuel supply right next to it, which shows how much we consume, how much we need, and pretty much the ability to use trucks, tanks, and airplanes and ships during wartime. This is our supplies or logistics fulfillment. With supply, this is how prepared our army is. If we're out in the field and we're having difficulty with supply, or supply is low, then our forces are going to be slower. This little telephone here is command power. Command power gives us the ability to make military decisions like sending attaches, or special decisions in some instances, depending on the country, to use military efforts. It also helps with promoting military officers or to give them additional traits. Still starts at the top of our experiences. They help develop military doctrine. Military doctrine is pretty much the tactics that our military uses in the battlefield, whether they're more defense focused, mobile focused, infantry focused, etc. Experience also helps with making adjustments to army units, and is required to make specialized planes, tanks, and ships. This little gavel button is our decisions, and decisions gives a special kind of uses for political power. They differ per per country. The only ones that are the same are political actions, which kind of apply universally throughout all the countries. This little eye to the right is our intelligence agencies. Typically, setting up an intelligence agency allows you to either set up collaboration governments or help fulfill a coup or change an ideology in other countries. Usually, because it takes up a certain amount of civilian factory slots, at least during its creation. If you have a smaller nation that is not as industrially strong, I would not recommend it. This little science beaker here is our research, and depending on the country, you have a certain amount of slots. This allows us to build up our military and our industry stronger as time goes on. The icons and the buffs are the same for each country, so don't feel like you're missing out if you're in a certain country and these icons, they don't change. We're gonna build up production and our construction here. This gives our construction speed buff. This allows us to produce more. Yep, and artillery buff. And our support equipment. Because we're going to be starting a civil war right now, we're going to need that support. So if you right click on a country, we'll get the diplomacy tab. And this applies for all countries on your own country. And it'll show you who you're allied with, different people different countries that you're guaranteeing, or that country is guaranteeing. This here is saying France is guaranteeing the independence of Czechoslovakia. That means that if I go to war with Czechoslovakia, France is likely to be called into that war as an ally. You also have alliances, well, which is this flag here is. And for some countries, we're also allowed to improve our relations. If we have high relations with a country, they're less likely to attack us or to justify against us. And the send attaché, which a military attaché is something that allows us to gain military experience or army experience by sending a military advisor to the country that is at war. So it's a way of getting army experience without expending infantry, without expending different logistics, planes, fuel, etc. But we can also send volunteers if we want to get that get our military units ranking higher. So right next to those hands is going to be our trade. If we are low on any material, we have the ability to trade with other countries. Trading does require convoys. So we have 195 convoys. It also requires civilian factories, depending on how much of that unit you need. Now, civilian factories is what helps in construction. So if you're constructing in your country, it's going to take some of those civilian factories away, which reduces the construction speed. Just be aware of that. This here is our construction tab. It shows you how many civilian factories we have, how many are in use, what they're in use for, and what we want to build. Infrastructure helps with our supply. We seem to have already a pretty solid infrastructure, so it seems like we don't need any there. Anti-air allows us to make anti-air guns in provinces. Military factories allows us to produce weapons, munitions, etc. And different airplanes. Civilian factories allows us to build quicker, as I just explained, and fuel. And if we also have the option of, if we have civilian factories and we're running low on different munitions, we don't have time to build another military factory, we could convert a civilian factory to a military factory. And ports, and supply line. This supply hub is really going to be of use when you become a little more immediate or into more used to the game. But ultimately, your army doesn't move if you don't have supply. And making sure that a supply hub is nearby will prevent them from succumbing to attrition and reducing their fighting power. When the Civil War starts, we're going to be on this side. I'm going to build some military factories here. I'm going to might also need. So this little wrench here is our production tab. It shows us what we are currently producing. If we're low on anything, we might want to assign military factories to, for the sake of this tutorial, get some supply and artillery. This little tank with an arrow below it is our deployments. We want to make a different division, be your panzer division or mobile division. Some of these may not show up for other countries if they haven't researched tanks or if they haven't researched. So notepad is our logistics. It just gives us a breakdown of how many units we have on the right side, which is our stockpile, how many we're producing. Well, this little hat right here, Officer Corps, it allows us to add different buffs and debuffs to our army and be added through military experience. This right here is our military doctrine. See, we have one already in warfare. And the more we go down, we're going to get buffs and debuffs. The same applies to our air and naval. So this right here at the top is our warnings. Let us know that there are things that we have to take a look at. Luckily, just click on the label. It will take you to the screen that you need to look at. So you don't have to go here. It says we have outdated equipment in production. That is our submarines. This says that we have unassigned divisions. These divisions don't have an army that they're in. We have decisions that we can make. And we have insufficient resources. And if you want to cancel these out, you can just right click on them. It will pop up again if there are changes. Right here is our time. We could speed up or go slow. For the sake of this tutorial, we are speeding up time to be a little quicker. We don't need a very precise measurement of time at this point. This right here to the right, the globe, is our world tension. This gives us, in certain instances, depending on your ideology, your ability to justify war goals, declare war to other countries, even increase conscription, as well as different economy law. And these right here are just large logistics of your armies. We go down here, lower left hand side, we have our different map mode. So our default map shows us our armies. We have our navy mode, which shows us which waters we control. Our air power map mode, intelligence map mode. And these smaller buttons are our supply map, terrain map, whatnot. Most of the time you won't have to click on these smaller buttons. It will automatically be taken there, depending on their relevant action. So now that the basic understanding of the UI is over, we will continue our timeline. We have our goal selected. We'll oppose this guy and start a civil war. Okay. See, it's March 11th. First focus done. So instinctively you'll be like, well, these are all armies, so why don't I just right click and send them somewhere? But instead we're gonna select all of them. We're gonna give them a general. Clicking this little plus here. We made them into an army. Now to give them a commander. Commanders provide different buffs and debuffs, depending on what you choose. At the top we will put Eric Rommel. Heinz Guderian as more defense or more planning, but less logistics, high consumption. To the different buffs and debuffs. You also have the choice of going to field commanders and promoting them to base off their experience. But we won't be doing that. So Heinz Guderian could be in charge of the second army. And while each general has buffs and debuffs, how about we give them a field command? These armies have an additional buff depending on our field command. So see here, Gunther has 4 attack, but has less planning and more logistics. And even before this here, before we start, we're gonna give Gunther a different, his added recovery rate. Charismatic. It does cost command power. So to assign your army to a front, we are going, first you're going to click on the field commander, or if you want to separate them, you could do just the general. But for this case, we're going to do the field commander. And we're going to click on front line and click the front line there. This way the armies are automatically split instead of having to add one general in the north, one general in the south manually. By just clicking the field commander and clicking the front line, you could start your positions. From there, we're going to make an offensive line. This arrow with double arrows. We're going to right click, go past Berlin. That's where we're right now. Our battle plans are to be done in a balanced manner. You have the option to do it in an aggressive manner, which could extend your front line, or slow it down, which could make it that they're very cautious with how they proceed, and they won't try to push anyone's buttons, so to speak. Once they're at the front line and you've set up your offensive line, click the arrow, they will proceed. They're in the meantime, before we unpause, I'm going to go to our naval view. Prevent them from naval invading us. This naval force to be on patrol. You could either have them be on patrol here, just guarding this area, or to lay mines. Have them be on patrol in this area. After that, we're going to go to our air mode, or just click on airbase. We have different options to either provide close air support, maintain air superiority, or intercept other people, strategic bombing, logistic strikes, etc. For the case of this, we are gonna go with air superiority and close air support, and some logistical strikes to Eastern Germany. I'm clicking just one for simplicity's sake for this tutorial. Boost up our conscription, which we probably want to do. Kind of halved our manpower, though it does have debuffs when it comes to our production. So let's unpause. We could see it light up green or red, depending on where we're at on the front line. This right here is a macro view of how it looks. You could either be hands off with this, or if you want to be in the middle, you could select individual units and right click to send them. Okay. So now that we have 2 units available here, and we could have done this before as well, we're going to give them another commander. We're going to tell this commander to naval invade. They're going to naval invade over here. To perform a naval invasion, you need the units to 1 be at this military group, your army, be at the naval base. You need convoys And you also need naval superiority in the area. We're going to tell one of our naval commanders to focus on this area here. See, this bar appears right next to your commander's face. It's their avatar, and it shows how ready the naval invasion is. Okay? Now that the naval invasion is ready, click the arrow. And our troops are already here. Normally you would like to go with at least 5 army divisions, but for the sake of this tutorial, we only did 2. Oh, this concludes our tutorial. Basics of gameplay. Hope that helps any newcomers get a grip of the game sooner rather than later. It took me about several months before I actually knew what I was doing, which could get pretty impeding. So I just hope this helps, and if you have any suggestions of what you want to see, comments below. Thanks for watching.